I am Mason, 30 years old, and my own father banned me from my brother's wedding because he thought I looked like a homeless person. Before I tell you about the police cars, the screaming, and the moment I bought my family's silence, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments. I read every single one. It happened on a Tuesday, 3 days before the ceremony. The air in Oregon was crisp, carrying that smell of pine and impending rain that usually made me feel calm. Not that day. I was standing on the front porch of my childhood home, a place that always felt more like a museum than a house. I was staring at my father. He was blocking the doorway, his chest puffed out like he was guarding the entrance to a VIP club. He wore a polo shirt that cost more than my first car, and his eyes were scanning me up and down with that familiar look of disappointment. It was a look I'd known since I was 6 years old. "Mason," he said, his voice low, trying to keep the neighbors from hearing, "we need to talk about Saturday." I adjusted my backpack. I was wearing a faded gray hoodie, raw denim jeans, and a pair of worn-in boots. To him, I looked like I just rolled out of a dumpster. To anyone who knew anything about Japanese streetwear, I was wearing about $4,000 worth of fabric. My hoodie was a vintage loop wheel piece from a small atelier in Osaka. My jeans were Visvim. But my dad, he only understood brands that had logos big enough to be seen from space. "What about Saturday?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I picked up my suit from the cleaners. It's ready." "That's the thing," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. He didn't look me in the eye. He looked at the manicured lawn over my shoulder. "Your mother and I, and Isabella, of course, we've been talking. We think it might be best if you didn't attend the reception." I blinked. The wind rustled the leaves, but the silence between us was heavy. "Excuse me?" "It's the image, Mason," he snapped, his patience fraying instantly. "Look at you. You look unkempt. Isabella comes from a very prominent family. Her father is a senator's golfing buddy. We have investors coming, important people. We can't have you sitting there looking like a failure." A failure. That word hung in the air. "I have a suit, Dad," I said, my jaw tightening. "I know how to dress for a wedding." "It's not just the clothes, Mason. It's the whole vibe, Mason. You don't fit in. You drive that beat-up rental when you come to town. You talk about whatever it is you do with computers. It's boring, and frankly, it makes people uncomfortable. Braden needs this day to be perfect. He's closing a big deal with Isabella's uncle next month. We can't risk you embarrassing him." I felt a cold fire in my gut. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was something older. It was the exhaustion of 30 years of trying to prove I was worth something to these people. "So I'm uninvited," I said flatly. "You can come to the church," he offered, as if he were doing me a favor. "Sit in the back, but the dinner, the party, it's $500 a plate, Mason. We just don't think it's the right environment for you." I looked at him. I really looked at him. I saw the wrinkles of stress around his eyes, the desperation to appear successful. He was drowning in debt to keep up this lifestyle, to pay for this wedding, but he was worried about my hoodie. "Okay," I said. He blinked, surprised. He had expected a fight. He had expected me to beg. "Okay?" "Yeah, okay. I won't come to the reception. In fact, I won't come to the church either. I wouldn't want to risk ruining the photos from the back row." "Now, Mason, don't be dramatic," he started. "I'm not being dramatic, Dad. I'm being practical. You want a perfect image? You got it." I turned around and walked down the driveway. I didn't look back. I didn't slam the gate. I just walked to my rental car, a modest Ford sedan, and got in. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of finally letting go. I pulled out my phone. I had a ticket booked back to Seattle for Sunday. I canceled it. I opened my banking app. I scrolled past the checking account my parents knew about, the one with $2,000 in it, and opened my primary holdings. The numbers were comforting. They were solid. They were the result of 7 years of grinding in the dark, building security architectures for crypto exchanges, and designing blockchain protocols for fintech startups in Tokyo and Singapore. "Siri," I said to the empty car, "flights to Tokyo tonight."
3 hours later, I was at PDX. I didn't walk toward the economy security line. I walked to the international first-class check-in. The agent looked at my hoodie, hesitated for a split second, and then saw my passport status. Her demeanor changed instantly. "Right this way, Mr. Carter. We have the lounge ready for you." Sitting in the lounge, sipping a glass of whiskey that cost more than my dad's tie, I felt a strange sense of detachment. I was leaving. I was missing my only brother's wedding. Braden, the golden child. Braden, who had never worked a hard day in his life, but somehow always had the newest iPhone and the fastest car. I boarded the plane. The pod was private, quiet. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and watched the rain streak against the glass. As the plane lifted off, leaving Oregon behind, I whispered a goodbye. I thought I was done with them. I thought I was free. I landed in Tokyo 14 hours later. It was Saturday night in Oregon, Sunday morning in Japan. The city was waking up, a sprawling electric beast that I understood better than my own hometown. I took the express train into the city and checked into the Amon Tokyo. I spent the day walking. I walked through Shibuya, letting the noise wash over me. I went to Daikanyama to visit the store where I bought the very jeans my father hated. The staff greeted me by name. We drank tea, we talked about denim weaves and indigo dye. Here, I wasn't the failure son. I was Mason, the connoisseur, the developer, the regular. By evening, I found myself in Ginza. I had a reservation at a small, counter-only sushi place tucked away in a basement. It didn't have a Michelin star, but it was impossible to get into unless you knew the owner. Kenji had set it up for me. I sat at the wooden counter. The chef placed a piece of fatty tuna, otoro, in front of me. It glistened under the warm lights. "Itadakimasu," I whispered. I took the bite. It melted. It was perfect. For a moment, the rejection, the hurt, the image of my father blocking the door, it all faded. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again, a long, continuous vibration that meant someone was calling. I frowned. It was 3 a.m. in Oregon. The wedding reception should be in full swing or winding down. I flipped the phone over. It was my Aunt Lily. Lily was the only one in the family who treated me like a human being. She was the black sheep of her generation, a woman who smoked too much and laughed too loud. I declined the call. I didn't want to hear about the wedding. I didn't want to hear about how beautiful Isabella looked or how touching Braden's speech was. Then a text came through. "Lily, Mason, open Facebook now. Oh my God." My stomach dropped. The chef looked at me, sensing the shift in my mood. I nodded an apology and picked up the phone. I opened the Facebook app. My feed was usually boring tech news and memes, but right at the top, shared by my cousin and then reposted by 3 other people, was a video. The thumbnail was blurry, taken in low light, but I recognized the crystal chandeliers of the banquet hall my dad had bragged about renting. I tapped play. The video was shaky. It showed the dance floor. The band had stopped playing. There was a murmur of confused voices. In the center of the frame stood my mother. She was wearing a silver evening gown, looking terrified. Standing over her was Isabella, the bride, the senator's friend's daughter, the picture of class. She was red-faced, screaming. The audio was tinny, but I could make out the words. "Lying old witch, you think you can spy on me?" "Isabella, please," my mother's voice sounded small. "I just saw—" "You didn't see anything," Isabella shrieked. And then it happened. Isabella drew her hand back. It wasn't a slap, it was a haymaker. She swung with her entire body weight. The sound was sickening, even through the phone speakers. My mother's head snapped to the side. She crumpled. She didn't just fall, she collapsed into a heap of silver fabric on the polished floor. The camera panned wildly. Guests were gasping. My father rushed into the frame, but he didn't go to Isabella. He stood there, hands hovering, looking completely useless, looking at the guests to see if they were watching. Braden was nowhere to be seen. I froze. The piece of sushi in my mouth turned to ash. I sat there in the most expensive district of Tokyo, thousands of miles away, watching the woman who had birthed me get assaulted by the woman my father had chosen over me.
Mason-san? The chef asked softly. I stood up. I need the check, I said, my voice sounding like it belonged to a stranger. I have to go. I didn't know it then, but my vacation was over. The war had just begun. I walked out of the sushi bar and into the neon glare of Ginza, but my mind was dragged back 20 years to a driveway in suburban Oregon. To understand why that video hit me so hard and why the internet's reaction was about to tear my family apart, you have to understand the hierarchy of the Carter family. We weren't rich. That was the dirty little secret. My dad was a regional sales manager for a paper company, and my mom was a receptionist who called herself an office administrator. We were middle class, comfortably so, but my parents had an appetite for champagne on a beer budget. They leased cars they couldn't afford. They bought designer clothes on credit cards that were maxed out. Appearance was their religion. And then there was Braden. Braden was born 3 years before me. He was the miracle. He had the blue eyes, the quarterback shoulders, the charm that could sell ice to an Eskimo. He was the investment. I was the expense. I remember the day Braden turned 16. We were in the driveway. Dad had put a giant red bow on a brand new Mustang. Not a used one, brand new. "This is for your future, son," Dad had said, beaming. "You pull up in this, people respect you. You'll get the girls. You'll get the connections." 3 years later, when I turned 16, Dad tossed me the keys to his 10-year-old station wagon, the one that smelled like wet dog and rattled when you went over 40. "Gas is on you," he said, not even looking up from his newspaper, "and don't scratch it. It's a classic." I didn't complain. I got a job. I washed dishes at a diner after school until my hands were raw and smelled like old grease. I saved every penny. I didn't care about the car. I cared about the college fund. Grandma had left money when she passed, specifically for our education. When I got accepted to state, with a partial scholarship, mind you, I asked Dad about the fund to cover the rest of the tuition. He went pale. Then he got angry. That was his defense mechanism. Attack before you can be questioned. "The fund?" he scoffed. "Mason, we had to use that. The roof needed repairs and Braden's fraternity dues. Look, you're smart. You can work. Braden needed the help to network. It's an investment in the family." Investment. That word again. I worked 3 jobs in college. I missed parties. I missed spring breaks. I graduated with 0 debt in a burning resentment that I used as fuel. While Braden was partying on the family dime, I was learning code. While he was networking at mixers, I was mining Bitcoin in my dorm room when it was worth pennies. But the moment that truly broke me happened 2 years ago. I had just landed my first major contract with a Tokyo firm, a 6-figure payout for 3 months of work. I wanted to bridge the gap. I wanted to show them I was doing okay. I bought Mom a scarf, Hermes, vintage silk, cost me $800. It was beautiful, subtle, elegant. I gave it to her at Christmas. She opened the orange box, pulled out the silk, and frowned. "Oh," she said, "it's brown." "It's taupe, Mom. It goes with your coat." She patted my hand. "Thanks, honey. It's sweet that you tried." 2 days later, I saw her using it to wipe mud off her boots in the mudroom. "Mom," I had yelled, "that's Hermes." She looked at me, confused. "This old thing, Mason? Don't lie. It doesn't even have a logo on it. You probably got it at a thrift store. It's fine for cleaning shoes." I stopped trying after that. I stopped telling them about my salary. I stopped mentioning my promotions. I realized that to them, success looked like a loud logo and a leased BMW. Real wealth, the kind that whispers, was a language they didn't speak. Back in Tokyo, standing on the street corner, I looked at my phone again. The video had jumped from a few hundred views to 10,000. I clicked on the comments. User Gina George. "OMG, look at the mother. That dress looks like tinfoil. No wonder she got slapped. Probably said something trashy." Chad Brad 3. "The bride is hot though. That right hook was professional. Mother-in-law down." Classy Lady 88.
This whole family screams new money, trying too hard. The decorations look cheap. The mother looks like she's drunk. Trash fighting trash.
My blood boiled. They were calling my mother trash. They were mocking the very image my father had destroyed our finances to protect. Trashy, cheap, low class. The irony was suffocating. My father had banned me, the only person in that family who actually had liquid assets and no debt, because I was the cheap one. And now his perfect, expensive wedding was going viral as the epitome of trashiness. I felt a vibration again. Another text, this time from an unknown number. It was a screenshot, a text conversation. Sender unknown. Look at what your brother sent me. The screenshot showed a text from Braden to someone named Chloe. Braden, babe, I know I'm getting married today. It's just business. Once the old man kicks the bucket and we get the house, I'll divorce her. She's annoying as hell, but her dad is loading up my pipeline. Just wait for me. I stared at the screen. Chloe. That name rang a bell. She was Braden's ex-girlfriend from college, the one Mom hated because her dad was a plumber. They had bullied her out of Braden's life years ago. Braden wasn't just a victim of a crazy bride. He was a scammer, too. He was marrying Isabella for money he thought she had. Isabella was marrying him for what? I looked at the video again. Why did she slap Mom? Mom said, I just saw. Saw what? My phone rang. It was my father. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to throw the phone into the Tokyo traffic and disappear into the neon night. I could just stay here. I had the money. I had the connections. I didn't need them. But then I looked at the freeze frame of my mother on the floor, humiliated, broken. She had wiped her boots with my scarf, yes. She had stood by while Dad banned me, yes. But she was still my mother. And seeing her laid out on the floor by a woman my brother was using for a payday, it woke up something fierce in me. I slid the bar to answer. Mason? My father's voice was unrecognizable. It wasn't the booming voice of the patriarch. It was thin, shaky, and terrified. I saw the video, Dad, I said, cutting straight to the chase. You have to help us, he stammered. It's everywhere. The investor, Mr. Tanaka, he left. Mason, the police are here. Isabella is screaming that Mom assaulted her first. They're talking about arresting your mother. Where's Braden? I asked. He's in the bedroom with Isabella. He's trying to calm her down. He says we need to apologize to her. He says if she presses charges, his deal falls through. I closed my eyes. Braden was throwing Mom under the bus to save his deal, to save his meal ticket. Dad, I said, my voice dropping an octave, shut up and listen to me. Do not apologize. Do not sign anything. And for God's sakes, tell the police to wait. What? Why? Mason, you don't understand. We need to contain this. I'm coming home. But the ticket, it's expensive. Old habits die hard. Even in a crisis, he was counting my pennies. I'll buy the airline, Dad. Just wait. I hung up. I pulled up my banking app again. I transferred $50,000 into my checking account. Then I opened my contact list and scrolled to K for Kenji. Kenji wasn't just a restaurant connector. He was a white hat hacker who used to work for Japanese intelligence. Moshi Moshi? Kenji answered, sounding sleepy. Kenji, wake up. I need you to dig. I need everything on a woman named Isabella. Let's see, Isabella Rossi, Oregon. Supposedly wealthy, supposedly connected. Give me 20 minutes, Kenji said. This sounds like fun. It's not fun, I said, watching a taxi slow down in front of me. It's a funeral. The flight back to the States felt longer than the flight out, even though it was physically shorter. I didn't drink whiskey this time. I drank water and stared at the dark screen of my laptop waiting for Kenji's encrypted file to drop. While I was over the Pacific, my father called 3 more times. I ignored him. He sent texts that ranged from panic, "The police took a report," to aggression. "Why aren't you answering? You need to fix the computer stuff on the internet." He had no idea how the world worked. Around hour 4 of the flight, the notification pinged. Subject: the Isabella dossier. Attached.
I opened the PDF. Kenji was thorough. He was terrifyingly thorough. Name, Isabella Rossi. Alias, Bella Rose. Izzy R. Elizabeth Vance. D.O.B., Las Vegas, Nevada. I scrolled past the basic info. No rich senator daddy. Her dad was a blackjack dealer in Reno who died in 2010. Criminal record. 2016 credit card fraud, dismissed. 2018 grand larceny, pled down to misdemeanor. 2020 solicitation, Las Vegas.
I raised an eyebrow. The classy bride my father had fawned over was a Vegas pro. But that wasn't the smoking gun. I needed something current. I scrolled to the financial section. Kenji had somehow pulled her credit report. Debts, $140,000 in credit card debt. Assets, $0. Employment, unemployed since 2021. Then the kicker, a note from Kenji at the bottom. Note, Mason-san, cross-referenced her alias Elizabeth Vance. There was an active warrant in Arizona for identity theft and elder abuse. She targeted a nursing home resident, drained his accounts, $50,000. She is a runner. Elder abuse, identity theft, and my brother, the real estate genius, had married her? I looked at the text from Chloe again. Braden thought he was scamming her. He thought he was marrying into money to pay off his gambling debts or whatever hole he had dug. He was a shark trying to eat a piranha. I felt a cold smirk touch my lips. It was a disaster, yes, but it was a disaster that vindicated every single doubt I'd ever had about my family's judgment. I landed in Portland at 6 a.m. I didn't rent a Ford this time. I walked to the exotic car rental booth. "What do you have available?" I asked the clerk. He looked at my travel-worn face, my hoodie, still the same one, and hesitated. "We require a substantial deposit for the luxury fleet, sir." I slapped my black card on the counter. It was made of titanium. It made a heavy clack sound. "I'll take the Porsche Panamera, black." The drive to the suburbs was a blur of gray mist and adrenaline. When I pulled up to the house, the scene was grim. The "Just Married" sign was still hanging crookedly on the front gate, looking like a bad omen. There were tire marks on the lawn, probably from guests fleeing the reception. I parked the Porsche right behind my dad's leased BMW. The contrast was poetic. His car was shiny, but belonged to the bank. Mine was a rental, but I could buy the dealership. I walked up the steps. I didn't knock. I used the key I hadn't used in 2 years. The smell hit me first. Stale wine, spilled perfume, and that distinct scent of old fear. The living room was a wreck. Wedding gifts were piled haphazardly in the corner, unopened. My father was sitting in his armchair, head in his hands. He looked 10 years older than he had 3 days ago. My mother was on the sofa, holding a bag of frozen peas to her face. The entire left side of her face was a swirl of purple and yellow. And sitting at the dining table, eating a bowl of cereal like nothing had happened, was Isabella. She looked up as I entered. She was wearing one of Mom's silk robes. "Who the hell are you?" she asked, milk dripping from her spoon. "I'm the guy who wasn't invited," I said, my voice calm. Dad's head snapped up. "Mason, thank God you're... Where did you get that car outside?" "Rental," I said shortly. I walked over to Mom. I gently lifted the bag of peas. The bruise was bad. "Did you go to the hospital?" "No," Mom whispered, her eyes avoiding mine. "We couldn't. The press. If we went to the ER, they'd file a report. Isabella already told the police it was self-defense." Dad interjected, his voice pleading. "She said Mom attacked her. If we press charges, she presses charges. It becomes a mess." "It's already a mess, Dad," I said. I turned to Isabella. "So, self-defense? A 60-year-old woman attacked you?" Isabella smirked. It was a cold, practiced expression. "She was spying on me, in the bridal suite, peeping Tom. I got scared. I reacted. It's trauma." "Spying?" I looked at Mom. "What did you see, Mom?" Mom flinched. She looked at Isabella, terror in her eyes. "Nothing. I saw nothing." "She saw me changing," Isabella snapped. "Pervert."
I knew that was a lie. I looked around. Where's Braden? He's asleep, Isabella said. Poor baby is so stressed. You people ruined our day. We ruined it? I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. You assaulted my mother in front of 200 people. She disrespected me. Isabella stood up, the robe falling open slightly. And now you barge in here. I should call the cops on you too. Go ahead. Call them. Officer Miller is the precinct captain, right? I'm sure he'd love to run your prints again. Isabella froze. Just for a second, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. What does that mean? It means, I said, walking closer to her, invading her personal space, that I know you're not from a senator's family. I know about Reno. I know about Arizona.
Her face went pale. Mason, Dad stood up. Stop it. Don't upset her. We're trying to negotiate. Negotiate what? I spun on my father. She hit your wife. She's a criminal. She's family, Dad yelled back, his face red. She's Braden's wife, and her father is going to invest in... Her father is dead, Dad, I screamed. The volume of my voice shocked everyone. The room went silent. Her father died in 2010. He was a blackjack dealer. There is no investment. There is no money. You are being scammed. Dad looked at me, then at Isabella. He looked like a man watching his life raft deflate. No, that's not true. She showed us the statements. Photoshop, I said. Bad Photoshop at that. Isabella's eyes darted to the door. She was calculating, fight or flight. She's lying, she shrieked. He's just jealous. Look at him. He's a loser in a hoodie. You're going to believe him over me? I'm your daughter-in-law. At that moment, the stairs creaked. Braden came down. He looked hungover, his hair messy, wearing just boxer briefs. What is going on? He groaned. Why is Mason here? Your brother is attacking me. Isabella ran to him, burying her face in his chest. Fake tears started instantly. He's saying horrible lies. Make him leave. Braden looked at me with pure disdain. Get out, Mason. Seriously, you weren't invited then, you aren't invited now. Go back to your little apartment and leave the adults alone. I looked at my brother. I saw the fear behind his arrogance. He knew, deep down, he had to know something was wrong, but he was too deep in debt to admit it. I'm not leaving, I said. Not until we have a family meeting. Tonight, dinner. Everyone sits down, we put everything on the table. We're not eating with you, Braden spat. Oh, you will, I said. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. I sent a command to my printer, the one I had set up in my old bedroom years ago, which was still connected to the Wi-Fi. Upstairs, the printer whirred to life. What are you doing? Mom asked. Printing, I said. I'm printing Isabella's arrest warrant from Arizona, and I'm printing your text messages to Chloe, Braden. Braden's face went white. How did you... I'm a computer guy, remember? The boring job? I smiled. Dinner, 7 p.m. Order pizza. I'm going to take a nap in my old room. If anyone disturbs me, I email the PDF to the police and to Chloe's father. I walked past them, up the stairs. I felt their eyes burning into my back. They were terrified, not of the scammer in their kitchen, but of the son they had underestimated for 30 years. My old bedroom smelled like dust and high school memories. My parents had turned it into a storage room for Isabella's wedding overflow. Boxes of favors, ribbons, and fake flowers were stacked on my bed. I shoved them onto the floor. I sat on the edge of the mattress, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had played a bold hand, but I was bluffing slightly. I hadn't sent the emails yet. I wanted to see them squirm. I wanted them to admit they were wrong without the police forcing them to. I needed an ally. I texted Aunt Lily. Me. I'm at the house. Come over at 6:45. Don't knock, just come in. Lily. On my way. I have the video file. The original, not the compressed Facebook one. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. I could hear whispering downstairs. Urgent, hissed arguments. He's bluffing, Braden was saying. He doesn't have access to that stuff. We hacked us. Isabella's voice was high-pitched. We need to leave, Braden. Let's just go to Vegas tonight. We can't leave,
Dad's voice. The investors, the house. They were trapped in their own web of lies. I closed my eyes and drifted into a light sleep. I dreamed of Tokyo, of the quiet precision of the trains, of the respect. I woke up at 6:30 p.m. The house was quiet, too quiet. I got up, splashed water on my face in the bathroom, and walked downstairs. The pizza had arrived. It was sitting on the dining table in cardboard boxes. Grease stained the bottom. A fitting banquet for this family. Dad, Mom, and Braden were sitting at the table. Isabella was standing by the window, smoking a cigarette inside the house. Mom hated smoking, but she said nothing. They looked like a tribunal. "Sit down, Mason," Dad said. He was trying to regain control. He had put on a blazer over his t-shirt. Even in ruin, he needed the costume.
I sat at the head of the table. "So," Dad started, "you made some threats. You made some accusations." "Facts," I corrected. I stated facts. "Isabella has explained everything to us," Braden said, his voice tight. "The warrant in Arizona, it was a misunderstanding. Identity theft. Someone stole her identity." I almost laughed. "And the texts to Chloe? Did someone steal your identity too, Braden?" Braden turned red. "That was just locker room talk. I love my wife." "You love her potential inheritance," I said, "which doesn't exist." "Enough!" Isabella slammed her hand on the table. "You come in here with your cheap clothes and your jealousy. You're just mad because you're a nobody. You have nothing. You're 30 and you rent a car to impress us. Pathetic." She was good. She knew exactly where to hit. She attacked my status, knowing that was the family's weak point. "Yeah, Mason," Dad joined in, latching onto Isabella's confidence. "We're willing to forgive this outburst if you delete whatever files you think you have and leave. We can handle our family business privately." "Forgive me?" I whispered. "You banned me from the wedding. She slapped Mom, and you're forgiving me?" "Mom provoked her," Braden yelled. "I didn't," Mom suddenly spoke up. Her voice was trembling. She looked at me, then at Braden. "I didn't provoke her. I went to the bridal suite to give her the pearl necklace, Grandma's pearls." "Mom, shut up," Braden hissed. "No," Mom said, tears leaking from her swollen eye. "I walked in, she was with Mark." "Mark, the best man." The room went dead silent. "She was kissing him," Mom sobbed, "and she was laughing. She said, 'Once I get the ring, we can pawn it.'" I looked at Braden. He didn't look surprised. He looked resigned. "You knew," I said to my brother. "You knew she was cheating." Braden looked down at the pizza box. "It doesn't matter. The deal with her uncle." "There is no uncle," I slammed my fist on the table. "God, are you people deaf? She is a grifter." "He's lying!" Isabella screamed. She grabbed a steak knife from the table. She didn't lunge at me, but she held it aggressively. "Get out of my house!" "It's not your house." The front door opened. Aunt Lily walked in. She was holding a tablet, and behind her was a man in a sharp gray suit. I smiled. "You're right, Dad. I did need a lawyer, so I brought one. It was Mr. Stone, my corporate attorney from Seattle. I had flown him down on the same plane as me. He cost $800 an hour." "Who is this?" Dad stood up. "My name is Alan Stone. I represent Mr. Mason Carter, and we have some paperwork to discuss regarding the inheritance trust that Mason controls." Dad froze. "What inheritance? Grandma's money is gone. We spent it." "You spent the education fund," I said. "You didn't know about the secondary trust she set up, the one that matures when the youngest grandson turns 30. I turned 30 last week. Grandma knew you were bad with money, Dad," I said. "She left the house, this house, to the trust. I am the trustee." I stood up. "This is my house, and I'm evicting the trash." The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator. "That's impossible," Dad whispered. "Mom wouldn't leave it to you." "She left it to the responsible one," Aunt Lily said, stepping forward. "Remember? I was the executor. I kept my mouth shut for 10 years, watching you spend every dime you had on leased cars and facades, but the deed transferred to the trust last Tuesday." Isabella dropped the knife. It clattered onto the hardwood floor. "So, you're rich?"
Isabella looked at me, her eyes suddenly calculating. The aggression vanished, replaced by a predatory curiosity. Mason, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Don't, I said with pure disgust. No, really, she said, stepping over the pizza boxes, pushing her hair back. Braden is, well, look at him, but you have authority. I like that. Isabella, Braden shouted, what are you doing? Shut up, loser, she snapped at him. She looked at me. If this is your house, maybe I can stay. We can work something out.
It was the most pathetic display I had ever seen. She was jumping ship in real time. Mr. Stone, I said, please show them the financials. Mr. Stone placed a folder on the table. He opened it. It wasn't just the deed to the house, it was my bank statement. Dad leaned over. His eyes widened. He squinted, counting the commas. 8 million? He choked out. Liquid, I said, not including the crypto assets or the property in Tokyo. But your clothes, Mom stammered. The hoodie. It's Visvim, Mom, I said, finally explaining it. It's Japanese. The cotton is hand-spun. This hoodie cost $600. The jeans cost $1,000. Just because it doesn't have a giant gold Gucci stamp on it doesn't mean it's cheap. That's the difference between us. You buy things to look rich. I buy things because I appreciate the quality. I looked at Braden. He was staring at the paper, his mouth open. He looked like a child who realized his toy was broken. You had this money? Braden whispered. And you let me struggle? Struggle? I laughed. You drove a Mustang in high school. You had your college paid for. I worked in a dish pit, Braden. I built this from nothing while you were playing pretend businessman. We're family, Dad shouted, banging the table. You have millions, and you let us drown in debt? You let us humiliate ourselves? You humiliated yourselves, I said coldly. You banned me from the wedding because of my image. Well, my image is worth $8 million. Your image is a viral video of a domestic assault. Speaking of which, I nodded to Aunt Lily. Lily tapped the tablet. A video started playing on the TV in the living room. It was casting from her device. It was the full video, not just the slap. It showed the 2 minutes before. On screen, Mom walked up to Isabella. Isabella was whispering to the best man. Mom tapped her on the shoulder. Isabella spun around, her face twisted in rage. "Get away from me, you old hag!" Isabella screamed in the video. "Please, don't do this to Braden," Mom begged. "Just give the ring back and leave." "I'm not leaving until I get the check," Isabella yelled. "Your idiot son promised me 50 grand for the wedding costs. I want my money." Then, the slap. The video ended. She admitted it. She was in it for the wedding cash. The money you borrowed from your 401k, Dad. Dad sank into his chair. He looked defeated. 50,000. I gave it to her yesterday in cash for the caterer. "It's gone," Isabella smirked. "Transferred to an offshore account this morning. Good luck getting it back." She grabbed her purse. "Well, this was fun, but since the jig is up, I'm leaving. Braden, don't call me. Your credit score is depressing." She turned to walk out the front door. "I wouldn't go out there," I said calmly. "Why, you going to stop me?" she sneered. "No, they are." Red and blue lights flashed through the sheer curtains. A siren chirped. "I didn't just bring a lawyer," I said. "I called Detective Miller on the way here, sent him the Arizona warrant and the video of the assault." Isabella ran to the window. 3 police cruisers were blocking the driveway, boxing in my Porsche and her getaway route. "You bastard!" she screamed, lunging at me. This time she didn't have a knife, she just had claws. But before she could reach me, the front door burst open. "Police! Hands where I can see them!" Isabella froze. She looked at me one last time. There was no charm left, just pure feral hatred. "You hope you rot," she spat. "Enjoy prison," I replied. "I hear the orange jumpsuits are very affordable." They cuffed her. They dragged her out, kicking and screaming, past the neighbors who had gathered on their lawns. The door closed. The house was silent again.
Braden was crying, actual sobbing tears. Dad was staring at the wall. Mom was holding the ice pack, looking at me with a mixture of awe and shame. "Mason," Mom whispered, "thank you." I looked at her. I looked at the bruise. I felt a pang of pity, but I shoved it down. "Don't thank me," I said. "I didn't do it for you. I did it because I was tired of being the punchline." "What happens now?" Dad asked, his voice trembling. "The house. You said it's yours?" "It is," I said, "and I'm selling it." "Selling it?" Dad stood up. "But where will we go?" "I don't know," I said. "You have salaries. You're adults. Figure it out. Or maybe use the money you saved by not paying for my college." "Mason, please," Mom begged. "We're your family." "No," I said, walking to the door. "You're my relatives. There's a difference." I stopped at the threshold. "Mr. Stone will handle the eviction notice. You have 30 days. I suggest you start packing." I walked out into the cool night air. The police cars were driving away with Isabella. My Porsche was waiting. I got in, started the engine, and revved it. It was loud. It was obnoxious. It was everything I hated. But for tonight, it felt like victory. The fallout was swift and brutal. The next morning, the news broke. Viral slap bride arrested for multi-state fraud. My mother's bruised face was on the local news, but this time the narrative had shifted. She was the victim. The internet apologized. Sort of. Gina George. Okay, I take it back. The mom is a victim, but the son who saved them, the secret millionaire, is he single? I ignored the comments. I spent the next week in a hotel suite, letting Mr. Stone handle the messy details. Braden filed for an annulment. It was granted quickly, given the fraud. He was single again, but he was broken. The golden child shine had worn off. He had to file for bankruptcy to clear the debts he'd racked up trying to impress Isabella. Dad lost his job. The paper company didn't like the negative publicity associated with his name. He was forced into early retirement with a fraction of the pension he expected. And the house. I went back one last time before listing it. It was empty. The boxes were packed. My parents were sitting on the porch steps, waiting for their moving truck. They were moving into a 2-bedroom apartment across town. It was a nice place, but it wasn't a mansion. It was average. They saw me pull up. I wasn't in the Porsche. I was in my rental Ford. I had returned the flashy car. It wasn't me. "Mason," Dad said. He looked small. He wasn't wearing a polo shirt. He was wearing a flannel shirt from Costco. "Hi, Dad." "We signed the papers," Dad said. "We renounced any claim to the trust. It's all yours." "I know," I said. "Mr. Stone told me." We wanted to say," Mom started. She wasn't wearing makeup. The bruise was fading to a sickly yellow. "We're sorry. About the wedding. About the clothes. About everything." I stood on the lawn looking at the house I had grown up in, the house where I was told I wasn't good enough. "I know you're sorry," I said, "but you're sorry because you got caught. You're sorry because I have money now. If I was still just the dishwasher, would you be apologizing?" They didn't answer. That was answer enough. "I'm setting up a small fund," I said. "It will pay for your rent for 1 year. After that, you're on your own." Mom started to cry. "Mason, you don't have to—" "It's not a gift," I said. "It's a severance. I'm severing the tie." I handed Dad an envelope. Inside was a check and a silk scarf, the Hermes one. I had fished it out of the mudroom closet before the movers came. "Take care of your things," I said. "Quality lasts longer than trends." I walked back to my car. "Mason!" Braden called out. He was standing by the truck, holding a box of trophies, his high school football trophies. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to Tokyo. I have a life there, a real one. Will you see us again?" I paused. I looked at my brother, my father, my mother.
They were a portrait of people who had chased an image until it led them off a cliff. "Maybe," I said. "If you're ever in Ginza, look me up. But wear something nice. They have a dress code."
I got in the car and drove away. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. As I headed toward the airport, my phone buzzed. It was Kenji. "Kenji-san, the project is live. We are up 300%. Drinks on you when you land." I smiled. Kenji, drinks on me, and order the good sake. I was going home, not to the house with the porch, but to the place where I was respected. I was Mason Carter, the cheap son, and I had never felt richer. Tokyo in the autumn is a different kind of beautiful. It's not the flashy, desperate beauty of a wedding reception designed to impress strangers. It's quiet. It's the gold of the ginkgo leaves falling on the dark pavement of Omotesando. It's the steam rising from a bowl of udon in a shop that has been perfecting its broth for 3 generations. It had been 14 months since I drove that Porsche away from my parents' house. 14 months since I severed the limb to save the body. I was sitting in a conference room on the 32nd floor of a glass tower in Roppongi Hills. The view behind me was the sprawling electric nervous system of the city, blinking in the twilight. Across from me sat 5 investors from Singapore. They weren't looking at my clothes. They were looking at the code displayed on the holographic projector. "The architecture is sound, Mr. Carter," one of them said. He was a man worth billions, wearing a simple black t-shirt. "The security protocols are unlike anything we've seen. Your freelance days are over, I assume." "I prefer to think of them as evolving," I said, leaning back. I was wearing a navy cardigan from a local designer in Daikanyama. No logos, just cashmere so soft it felt like a second skin. But yes, we are ready to launch. We signed the deal 20 minutes later. It was a merger that would integrate my blockchain security patent into their banking infrastructure. The payout was significant enough to buy my parents' old neighborhood 3 times over, but as the digital signature verified on the tablet, I didn't feel the rush of arrogance I expected. I just felt calm. I walked out of the building and into the cool night air. My phone buzzed. It wasn't business, it was Aiko. Aiko was the opposite of Isabella in every conceivable way. She worked as a restorer at the Nezu Museum. We had met 6 months ago when I dropped a vintage teacup I had bought, another cheap thing my mother would have hated, and brought it to her shop for repair. She didn't tell me to buy a new one, she fixed it using kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with lacquer, dusted or mixed with powdered gold. She treated the break as part of the history of the object rather than something to disguise. "Are you finished saving the digital world?" her text read. "For today," I typed back. "Dinner?" "I made nabe. Come home." Home. That word used to make my stomach tighten. Now it meant a small, minimalist apartment in Moto Asabu with a view of the river. I hailed a taxi. As I watched the city blur past, my mind drifted back to Oregon. I hadn't blocked them exactly, I just hadn't reached out. Aunt Lily kept me updated. I knew the basics. Dad was working part-time at a hardware store. The pension from the paper company wasn't enough to cover the rent on their 2-bedroom apartment and the payments on the debts they still hadn't cleared. Mom was volunteering at a church thrift store. The irony wasn't lost on me. And Braden was the surprise. According to Lily, the divorce and the bankruptcy had shattered him, but instead of running, he had stayed. He was working construction, manual labor. The golden child was pouring concrete and hauling lumber. I arrived at Aiko's apartment. The smell of dashi and soy sauce hit me the moment I opened the door. It was warm. It was real. "Good day?" she asked, taking my coat. She saw the look in my eyes, the distant look. "You're thinking about them again." "I have to go back," I said quietly. She stopped moving. "Why? Did they ask for money?" "No. The escrow closed on the big house today. There are final papers that need a wet signature. The lawyers said I could mail them, but you need to see it," she finished for me. "You need to see that the ghost is gone." I nodded. I need to close the loop.
I flew back 2 days later. I didn't take a private jet. I flew commercial business class. I wasn't trying to prove a point anymore. I just wanted to get there. Oregon looked exactly the same, yet entirely different. It was smaller, the trees looked shorter, the rain felt wetter. I met Mr. Stone, my lawyer, at his office downtown. He looked pleased. "The sale is final, Mason," he said, sliding a stack of documents across the mahogany desk. "The buyers are a young couple, tech money. Ironically, they know who you are. They were thrilled to buy Mason Carter's estate." I signed my name. "It was never my estate, Alan. It was just a house I paid for." "There is one other matter," Stone said, hesitating. He pulled a smaller envelope from his drawer. "Your father came by last week. He dropped this off. He asked me to give it to you if you ever came back." I stared at the envelope. It was plain white. My name was written on it in Dad's shaky handwriting. "Did he ask for money?" "No," Stone said. "He didn't ask for anything." I took the envelope but didn't open it. "I'm going for a drive." I drove to the old neighborhood first. The house, my house, looked different. The sold sign was up. There were new cars in the driveway, a Tesla, a Rivian. The landscaping was different. The bushes Dad had obsessed over were gone, replaced by modern xeriscaping. It didn't hurt. It felt like looking at a picture of a stranger. Then I drove to the address Aunt Lily had given me. The apartment complex was on the other side of town. It wasn't a slum, but it was working class. The siding was peeling in places. The parking lot was full of trucks and older sedans. I parked my rental car, a Chevy Malibu this time, across the street and waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Maybe I wanted to see them miserable, to validate my anger. Maybe I wanted to see them happy, to validate my guilt. Around 5:30 p.m., a truck pulled up, a beat-up Ford F-150 with a construction company logo on the side. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. He was wearing a neon yellow safety vest over a dirty flannel shirt. His boots were covered in mud. He walked with a limp, like his back hurt. It was Braden. He looked thinner. His face was tanned and weathered. The soft, doughy look of the sales executive was gone, replaced by hard angles. He reached into the truck bed and pulled out a metal lunchbox. I watched him walk toward the building. He stopped at the mailboxes. He flipped through the envelopes. Bills, mostly, I imagined. Then the passenger door of the truck opened. Another guy hopped out. "Hey, Braden, you coming to the bar? It's Friday." Braden shook his head. "Can't, Mike. Gotta get home. Mom's making meatloaf. And I gotta save for the truck payment." "Suit yourself, man." Braden turned to walk up the stairs. I rolled down my window. "Braden." He froze. He knew the voice. He turned around slowly, squinting against the gray daylight. When he saw me, his shoulders dropped. He didn't look angry. He looked ashamed. He walked over to the car, wiping his muddy hands on his pants. "Mason." His voice was raspy. "Lily said you might come back." "I had to sign the papers," I said. "Right. The house." He looked down at his boots. "I drove by it the other day. It looks nice." "You look tired," I said. "I am," he laughed, a dry, cracking sound. "Concrete is heavy. Who knew?" "It's honest work," I said. He looked me in the eye then. It was the first time in my life I felt like I was looking at my brother, not the golden child. "Yeah," he said. "It is. I sleep better, actually, even with the back pain. No more lying about deals that don't exist. No more pretending I'm closing escrow on a mansion when I can't pay my phone bill." "How are they?" I asked, nodding toward the apartment. "They're okay," Braden said. "Dad misses the country club, obviously, but he's different too. He actually talks to me now. Not about money, just talks. He's teaching me how to fix the sink." There was a silence between us, not the hostile silence of the dinner table a year ago, but a heavy, awkward silence of two people trying to bridge a canyon. "I'm sorry, Mason," Braden said suddenly. "I know I said it before because I was scared, but I'm saying it now because I actually get it now. I was a parasite. You were the real thing in that house." I looked at his hands. They were calloused, scarred, dirty. They were the hands of a man who was finally building something, even if it was just his own character. "I have to go," I said. I couldn't handle too much more. The emotions were rising, threatening to crack my composure. "Wait."
Braden reached into his pocket. He pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. I know it's a joke to you. I know you have millions. But on my birthday, you sent a card. You didn't put money in it, but you sent it. I never got you anything. For 30 years. He tried to hand me the $20 through the window. Braden, I don't need— Take it, he insisted, his eyes intense. Please, it's my money. I earned it. I poured a driveway for it. I want to buy my brother a drink, even if I can't be there to drink it with him. I stared at the bill. It was dirty. It smelled like sweat and drywall dust. I took it. Thanks, I said. My throat felt tight. Don't be a stranger, Mason, Braden said, stepping back. Or do, I get it if you do, but we're here. We're not perfect, but we're trying. I rolled up the window and drove away. I didn't look back at the apartment. I drove straight to the airport. I sat in the first-class lounge, holding the crumpled $20 bill. I looked at it for a long time. Then I remembered the envelope Mr. Stone had given me. I tore it open. Inside was a photograph. It was old, grainy. It was taken in the backyard of our first house, before the money troubles, before the obsession with image. It was me and Braden. I was 5, he was 8. We were covered in mud, holding worms we had dug up from the garden. We were laughing. Mom and Dad were in the background, sitting on lawn chairs, actually smiling at us, not worrying about the grass stains. On the back of the photo, Dad had written, "We lost our way. I forgot that this was the only wealth that mattered. I am so proud of the man you became, despite me. Dad." I didn't cry. I had cried enough over them, but I felt something shift in my chest. The anger, the white-hot rage that had fueled me for a decade. It cooled. It didn't disappear, but it solidified into something manageable, like the gold lacquer in Aiko's pottery. I took out my phone and texted Aiko. Me. I'm coming home. Aiko, did you close the loop? I looked at the photo, then at the $20 bill. Me. Yeah, I think I did. The flight back to Tokyo was peaceful. I slept without dreaming. When I landed, the city was moving at its usual frantic pace, but I moved slowly. I went straight to the bank. I didn't go to the high net worth counter. I went to the safety deposit box. I placed the crumpled $20 bill and the old photograph inside. I placed them next to the hard drive containing my master keys for the crypto exchange. To anyone else, it was trash next to treasure. To me, that $20 was the most expensive thing in the vault. It was the price of my brother's dignity. I walked out into the Tokyo sunshine. My phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from my financial advisor. Subject: Quarterly Review and Trust Distribution. I opened it. The numbers were astronomical, but I scrolled down to the section I had set up before I left Oregon, the one I hadn't told anyone about. Beneficiary: Braden Carter. Condition: 5 years of verified employment. Amount: full college tuition for offspring plus $100,000 down payment for primary residence. I hadn't given him the money now. He needed to sweat. He needed to build those calluses. But I wasn't going to let him drown if he stayed the course, if he kept pouring that concrete and driving that beat-up truck. The safety net would be there, not for him to lounge on, but for him to bounce back from. I walked toward the subway. I had a date with Aiko. We were going to a noodle shop in Shinjuku. It was a hole-in-the-wall place, cash only, plastic stools. The bowls cost $8, and I knew with absolute certainty that I would be the best-dressed man there. Not because of my clothes, but because I was finally comfortable in my own skin. 3 years later, I was standing in front of a mirror in a small dressing room in Kyoto. Aiko was sitting on a bench behind me, smiling. "It looks good," she said. I looked at my reflection. I was wearing a black kimono. It was silk, vintage, older than I was. It had the crest of a family that wasn't mine, but the shopkeeper said it represented resilience. "It's for our wedding," I said. "Are you sure?" "It's traditional." "It's authentic," she corrected. "And it fits you."
We weren't having a big wedding. No country club, no investors, no $500 plates. We were getting married at a small shrine in the mountains. Just us, Aiko's parents, Kenji, and Aunt Lily, who was flying in. I had invited my parents and Braden. They had declined, not out of spite.
Dad had written me a letter. "We can't afford the ticket, Mason, and I don't want you to pay for it. We are finally getting back on our feet. Braden is a foreman now. Mom is managing the thrift store. We are happy for you. We will celebrate from here. Send photos." It was the best wedding gift they could have given me. Boundaries, respect, reality. I bought the kimono. As we walked out of the shop, I saw a young man walking down the street. He couldn't have been more than 20. He was wearing a t-shirt with a massive luxury brand logo plastered across the chest. He was strutting, checking his reflection in the shop windows, making sure everyone saw the brand. I stopped and watched him. I saw myself, or rather, the ghost of who I was supposed to be. I saw the insecurity masked by cotton. I saw the desperate need to scream, "I am worth something." Without saying a word, I looked down at my own clothes, a plain white t-shirt, jeans that were fraying at the hem, boots that had been resoled twice. I remembered the day on the porch. "You look like a failure." I touched the fabric of my t-shirt. It was high-quality cotton spun in a loop wheel machine that moved slowly, preserving the integrity of the thread. It would last for 10 years. It would get softer with every wash. It didn't have a logo. It didn't need one. It knew what it was. That was the lesson, wasn't it? We live in a world that is obsessed with the wrapper. We filter our lives. We curate our feeds. We lease cars we can't afford to impress people we don't like. We bankrupt our futures to pay for a wedding reception that is designed for Instagram, not for marriage. My family fell into that trap. They thought the logo was the value. They thought the appearance of wealth was the same as the substance of character. They were willing to sacrifice their own son, me, on the altar of image. But the crash came. It always comes. And when the facade was stripped away, when the senator's daughter was revealed to be a con artist and the real estate tycoon was revealed to be a broke gambler, what was left? Just people. Flawed, broken, scared people. Braden found his salvation in concrete. Dad found his in a hardware store aisle. Mom found hers in sorting used clothes. They found dignity in the truth. It took losing everything to find the only thing that mattered. And me? I found that revenge isn't about destroying the people who hurt you. It's about outgrowing them. I didn't evict them to be cruel. I evicted them to save them. If I had let them stay in that house, if I had paid off their debts, they would have never changed. They would have continued to wipe their mud on my silk scarves. They would have continued to treat me as an ATM, not a son. By walking away, by letting them fall, I gave them the chance to stand up on their own. I took Aiko's hand. We walked through the crowded streets of Kyoto. We passed a billboard advertising a luxury watch. "Define your legacy," the slogan read. I laughed softly. "What's funny?" Aiko asked. "Just thinking about legacies," I said.
My legacy wasn't the millions in the bank. It wasn't the code I wrote. It wasn't the house I sold. My legacy was that $20 bill in the safety deposit box. My legacy was the fact that when I looked in the mirror, I didn't need a logo to tell me who I was. I was Mason Carter. I was the guy who wore the cheap hoodie, and I was the richest man in the world. We reached the riverbank as the sun was setting. The water turned a deep, molten gold. You guys have been with me through the mud, the sushi, the police sirens, and the silence. You saw the worst of my family, and you saw the moment I took my power back. But here is the truth I want to leave you with. There is a difference between being poor and being broke. My brother was broke, but he acted rich. My parents were broke, but they acted elite. I was poor in their eyes, but I was wealthy in freedom. Don't let anyone tell you that your value is written on a price tag. Don't let your family or anyone else make you feel small because you don't fit their picture of success. If you were the black sheep, the outcast, the one they hide in the back row, stay there. Watch them, learn from them, work in the dark, build your own fortress, and when they finally turn around and ask you for help, don't give them a handout. Give them the truth. It's the only currency that doesn't depreciate. I squeezed Aiko's hand. She squeezed back. "Ready to go home?" she asked. "Yeah," I said.
Let's go." We walked into the twilight, two figures in plain clothes disappearing into the crowd. No fanfare, no applause, just life. Real, messy, beautiful life. And that, my friends, is a wrap. This story wasn't just about a viral wedding disaster or a secret millionaire getting revenge. At its core, it's a story about self-worth versus perceived value. My family suffered from status anxiety, a condition where the fear of being perceived as unsuccessful drives people to make catastrophic financial and moral decisions. They valued the symbol of wealth, the wedding, the car, the brand, over the source of wealth, hard work, integrity, and financial literacy. Here are the key lessons I hope you take away. 1. The rich versus wealthy mindset. Rich is loud, wealth is quiet. True financial freedom comes from assets you own, not liabilities you lease to impress others. 2. Boundaries are love. Enabling toxic family members isn't love, it's codependency. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their actions, like I did with Braden in the house. 3. Don't judge the hoodie. Never underestimate someone based on their appearance. The most successful people often prioritize comfort and quality over flashiness. I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt judged by your own family for not meeting their superficial standards? Or have you realized that cutting off toxic family was the only way to save yourself? If you believe that true value comes from character and not clothes, please comment the word hoodie below. It tells me that we are on the same page and that this story added value to your life. Thank you for listening.